Welcome back. Well, Dr. Oluwakayode Oguntimehin joins us now. He's a permanent secretary at the Primary Health Care Board in Lagos. As we continue our focus, enlightening the public about this Ebola virus threat. Thank you for coming on this morning.
Good morning.
You're still having meetings about preparations, sensitization about this. The government is doing that, aren't they?
Yes. Let me start by actually telling a story. I like to always say that just to give a perspective to what we're dealing with. In 1976, there was this young scientist, the medical doctor, Prt1, who was working at the Institute of Tropical Medicine in Antwerp. And they got this virus from Zaire because there was this outbreak of a mysterious disease nobody knew about. And on looking down the microscope, we saw this worm-like structure which looked very much like another virus that had caused a problem a year earlier in Marburg. And on consulting experts on this, they assured him that this was a different virus. And he made up his mind that he was going to Zaire to go and find out exactly what this problem is and do something about it. On getting to Zaire, there was a very funny aside to it from his own personal story, that the Zairean officials who accompanied him to this village, while they were going, instead of doing the normal French greeting of "till we meet you again," they told him goodbye. But he still went to this village and found out what exactly the problem was. And he did basic, simple things. Closed down the hospital, quarantine people who are infected and their contacts, and did regular public information. And this was what actually stopped this initial epidemic. So as much as deadly as the Ebola virus is, doing basic simple things stops the outbreak. The Lagos state government, in conjunction with the federal government, had been meeting since this thing started. Again, I would also like to commend First Consultant, like the Special Advisor on Public Health did yesterday. If not for the professionalism of First Consultant hospitals, we will be in trouble. They were knowledgeable enough to identify and inform the appropriate authorities about what to do. We are also lucky in the sense that the person who had this illness is not living in Nigeria. There's been no indigenous case that has happened since this happened. It was just one imported person, and he fell ill at the airport. So there was a limited number of contacts that he had contact with, and we've been able to actually identify all these people, and we're tracing them and monitoring them. So there are regular meetings every day about what to do. We are in about maybe 5 different groups doing basic different things: information, epidemiology, case management, burial ceremonies, burial teams that we train, and people who are going to take care of the waste that are being produced. We still do not have any infection.
Okay, so that means, because as at the 28th, the Commissioner for Health in Lagos was saying that the airline had not released the passenger manifest for the flight from, I think it's Monrovia, Lome, and Lome, Lagos. Have you overcome that now?
To a certain extent, yes. We have not a full list, but at least we have a list of people who actually traveled with him, especially people who came in from Liberia with him for the ECOWAS meeting, and we are monitoring them. And as of today, I can assure you that none of them had fallen ill. Again, as a form of public information, despite the fact that we know that this has an incubation period of 2 to 21 days, usually the critical period is between 8 to 12 days after contact. And we also do know that if the person does not fall ill and is frustrated, you cannot give that infection to another person. So people should try as
Tell us more on that. If the person does not fall ill, how do you mean?
Normally, like every infectious disease, it starts with fever. Just normal symptoms like malaria and typhoid. But we also know that even when this fever starts, it takes about 2 to 3 days after the fever starts before you actually start shedding the virus in your body fluids. And by that time, you're actually acutely ill. And so you're not moving about. So people should not panic. If you have a fever or you know that you have come in contact with any suspicious pathogens, please go to a health facility. You will be seen by physicians. And since everybody is really aware of what is happening now, people will take precaution in trying to deal with it.
Yeah, but within the first 3-4 days, if the person has got fever and he actually has contracted the virus, can it be transmitted within those first 3 days if he hasn't started shedding the virus in himself?
Usually, let me put it this way. The first sign is that fever. But it is not just an ordinary fever, it's actually a high fever. It is such that you don't really move about. It's like a normal illness. And so you don't shed until probably the second or third day. Because you see, the virus is like all infective organisms. They have this thing we call a sensing quorum, in the sense that they build up themselves to a certain number before they start an infection. And so it takes time to do that. And it's only when they have enough in your system that the infection really starts. And you now start shedding in your body fluids. It also must be emphasized that it is in body fluids. So it is the contact with body fluids that is the problem. And simple basic hygiene, wash your hands regularly with soap, will stop you from contacting the illness. So what I will advise everybody to do is regularly wash your hands. Simple basic
So if I shake someone who's got the virus without transmission of body fluids, am I in danger?
Yes, but not the way I would classify somebody who is closely in contact with the person who has. Again, that's where the advice comes in. Wash your hands with soap and you'll be okay.
So if he sweats and I touch him, I'm in danger.
You're in danger.
You know, a lot of questions yesterday after, the program, and perhaps maybe we should be looking at some of the questions that we couldn't take yesterday. You just talked about precautionary measures to be taken, but some would also be asking if there are any cases of a human that's a host, just the way we have the fruit bats. Your carrier, it doesn't break you down, but it's right inside of you. You move about with it.
I will say no. There's this very ironical thing about this virus. It is very deadly, but its weakness is in its deadliness, because it tends to burn itself out. You don't have a human host. If you have it, it's either it kills you or you survive. And if you survive, then most times you don't transmit. Yes, we've had cases in literature that you've had people who still harbor the virus for a period of time even after they've been well. But these are very rare cases. And so there isn't really anything to worry about.
Okay. You told us yesterday about, Chamberlain, about eating of animals, the one Nigerians would call bushmeat, and even bats. Well, anyway, I wonder if people truly eat bats, but tell us more on that, coming in contact with some of the fruit bats or animals you get to buy on roadsides.
Okay. The simple truth is this. Nobody is really sure what the natural host is. Most likely it is the food bat. But it is the preparation of that dead animal to consumable instance that you get the transmission. It's like every other thing. If you cook well and eat that, and you're not the person who has cooked, you will not get an infection.
Oh, you're not the person that has cooked, meaning we're talking about preparations.
Yes, preparation of the
getting
dead animal,
of an infected animal.
Yes, the dead animal, you're the one preparing, trying to, what do you call it, to cook, or as it is, barbecue and things like that. You are the one that are actually in danger. It is not the person who has bought a well-cooked meat and is eating that is in danger. But the whole idea basically is that, look, let us avoid this, since we know that there is a path of transmission through this.